The coin of the realm is chips, AI. That's the world we live in today.
The fact that you could take generative AI output and now create generative AI video, I think that's remarkable.
There's no reason.
Are you
not
asking
to.
for more regulatory on this?
Yeah.
Why?
People need to pay attention to MCP, or Model Context Protocol.
Or what happens?
I really do think you have an existential crisis in front of you. Welcome. I'm Travis Rehl. Today on AI Unplugged, we're going to be talking about MCP, vibe coding, and more. I'm here today with Jeff Valentine and Justin Copie. Hope you have a fun time with us.
Travis, good to see you.
Hi, welcome back.
Hey, Jeff.
Welcome back.
You made it.
I'm honored. I'm the honored special guest today. This feels good.
Wait, why'd you say welcome back? Because I was gone for an episode or two?
Vacation.
Well, got to take some time off.
That's true. Yes.
It's good. Well, you guys held it down.
Yeah. Andrew did a great job.
It seems like the following is increasing literally by the day. Do you follow what is going on with the analytics?
No. I'll tell you why. It's a thing. It's a big thing. I don't watch videos that I'm in.
All the famous actors say that.
It's like, to me, this is a real thing. To me, it's like walking under a ladder. It's like bad luck. I don't know why.
Okay.
It's like I have no idea.
Well,
Hope it's doing great.
We won't talk about it. I don't want to make you feel too uncomfortable.
No, is it good?
It is. It's good. We what we're finding is that there's definitely a constituent of just random individuals that we have no real good demographic on that are following. They're watching the episodes. They tend to pick up some of the clips that our marketing folks are cutting up and then putting up on online, and then we're getting actually customers and prospects that are starting to subscribe, which is great because I think that tells us that there's like this real need for a venue maybe similar to this, AI Unplugged, which is formal yet not formal, and I think that the content that we are talking about and promoting, I think is very relevant. Cool. We'll just keep doing it till I guess it doesn't make sense, right?
Right. Yeah.
Jeff, thrilled to have you.
Thanks. Yeah, pretty excited.
The president of Innovative Solutions, gracing us with his presence.
Hot tamale.
Hot tamale. That's great, guys. Thanks.
Did you guys ever do a podcast interview before for like on any podcast?
Yeah, years ago though. I mean, back in the beginning days of podcasts,
but not together.
No.
Separate interviews?
No.
Other video.
So for those who don't know, Jeff and I go way back. 8 years?
Man, it's a lot.
Something like that
I guess
now,
so.
give or
All
take.
right.
So a couple companies now.
Yeah.
All in the Amazon ISV technology space.
So when I still had brown hair instead of.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
A little bit left there.
I know.
Anyway.
Well, let's dive in. All things AI, right?
Oh, yeah.
We're doing a bunch that I think is super interesting, but this podcast is not about promoting what we're doing. It's about what's happening in the industry and to get our take and our reaction on it. What do you think is wicked cool right now?
I think people need to pay attention to MCP, or Model Context Protocol.
Or what happens?
Or I think if you're in a business, if you're in a business of being a Zapier clone, or like a Make.com clone, or somebody who's responsible for integration management, right? Which is lots of companies that do that, right? Service bus companies, that type of thing, right? I really do think you have an existential crisis in front of you.
How bad?
We should back up. What does it do?
Okay, so Model Context Protocol. When you have AI agents wanting to interact with databases and technologies and APIs and so forth for probably the first year, you are writing custom code every single time to interact with Salesforce or HubSpot or name a thing. 7 months ago, Anthropic comes around and they announce what they call Model Context Protocol. What it is a standard. It's like a USB plug standard for APIs and AI agents. So now companies like Salesforce, Atlassian actually just made an MCP server, they call it, just a few days ago, a few weeks ago now. You can literally plug in a URL. Hey, my agent, use my MCP server for Atlassian. Here's my credentials. And literally within seconds, the agent has access to dozens of APIs to go make requests and do work on these systems. So if you can do that with a single or a couple lines of code with an MCP server, why do you need a complicated Zapier license to do Salesforce integrations, right? And what you're seeing is a lot of companies right now are building their own MCP servers and they're launching them as a free, as a sort of alternative to your
Sure.
traditional API.
Yeah.
And if you're a Zapier company or a Make.com or a Service Bus company, you're probably sitting there like, where my usage is all right there. Where's it going now?
Sure.
What I got a question.
Yeah.
What happens when those APIs change? When Salesforce says, there's this new object.
Yeah.
And normally they'd like go publish the API difference. What happens in this new world?
They publish the API. So MCP
Is like self-describing what the API is?
Yeah. So I have a diagram I actually can show you real quick. So what ends up happening is the MCP server that Atlassian or Salesforce hosts has access to all the APIs. And so Salesforce, so here's a diagram. Obviously, it's always data sources.
Yeah,
Think
yeah.
of these as APIs, right? So they manage and maintain the APIs.
Mhm.
And when an agent says, hey, I want to work with Salesforce now, the agent says, hey, what APIs are available for me?
Right.
And then it chooses which API to use. So now you're no longer managing like data pipelines. You're no longer managing like if this, then this, right? Because the agent is going to solve for that for you every single time it tries to use an API,
Cool.
right?
Kinda.
I mean, I think.
Let's see if it sticks.
Okay, I mean,
You know what I'm saying?
it's going to stick. I'll put my money on this one. It'll stick. It has to stick. One of the biggest problems left in this technology race is if the models are commoditized,
Yeah.
what do you do with them? Right? So integrations is like the final frontier.
It is. It reminds me back in 2008, we were building our business at a time around electronic health records. Prior to 2008, go to the doctor, and your doctor would have a physical medical chart. I love telling our Gen Z employees about this because they have no concept that you used to go to the doctor. There used to be a paper record. Well, in 2008, as electronic health records were starting to be adopted, the big conversation was interoperability.
Mm-hmm.
How do you get an EHR to talk to another EHR? If you go to orthopedic surgeon because you broke your wrist, how does that provider send and receive information from your primary care physician? Like, this is a big, big deal. And interoperability standards were a huge issue. And I remember it was a super interesting and educational portion of my career because it was the first time I realized that you had this massive momentum in a market, in an industry, and you had all sorts of money and you had all sorts of vendors from big hospitals to small independent physicians. And then you had technology providers like ourselves, and nobody was talking to each other, and everybody kind of thought they had the standard, and interoperability was a problem for many, more than 10 or 15 years. I mean, it was still an issue to some extent today. The reason I say this will be interesting is I still think you got a lot of people's hands in this.
Yes.
Who defined the standard? Who was the organization?
Anthropic did.
Yeah. See, what does OpenAI feel about it?
They announced they are adopting it as of last week. And you got Google 2 weeks ago, they announced they're adopting it.
That's
so now you got
amazing.
all three. Amazon announced they're adopting
And they
it.
don't want to tweak it?
No.
These vendors are cool with it,
Mm-hmm.
even though Anthropic created it.
Well, Anthropic created it, but they open sourced it. So now all the vendors can influence it as they see fit, but everybody has to adopt, similar
That's
to sort of NACS adapters for
I just,
electric cars.
dude, I think this is massive. This, to me, when we talk about democratizing IT and specifically AI for our customers, and we think of a business, they're trying to do more with less. They don't have a lot that they can do, right?
Right.
This starts to really streamline that. This really starts to push it in the direction of like the art of the possible becomes so much more significant. And I don't know, maybe I'm naive. I think of this as like when we hear about in the future, software really won't be written any way, shape, or form like it's written today. This just helps accelerate that even further.
Right.
Low code, no code, vibe code.
Can't wait to talk about this.
Oh, we got to talk about that today. I mean,
Who
since
came up-
I
who
since
came
I
up with
was
the
here
word?
last in this podcast, vibe coding became like the thing.
It
Yeah.
sounds like a 70s word. It sounds like something
It's
kind
ridiculous.
of
70s
Yeah,
word.
like a
I
disco
agree with
thing.
Jeff.
Like,
You don't agree?
it doesn't
A
sound
disco?
professional.
Doesn't sound professional. No, I think it came from like a YouTuber.
A YouTuber, and then
Yeah.
it stuck. The whole industry
It
is now
was
calling
something.
it.
It was like no, it's like an actual professional, but they uploaded a video of themselves doing this, and it started calling. I'm just gonna vibe my way through this code, and that just sort of like stuck
Yeah.
to my thing. But like people just sort of surrounded it and agreed that's the term,
Okay.
for better or worse.
Is there a difference in vibe coding between the professional use by an educated, experienced software developer
yeah.
and somebody that's just kind of like a hacker that thinks they know how to code, but they don't really know how it works?
Completely.
So what's the difference? Would you call them both vibe coding?
Yes, maybe to degrees of like how good they are, right? So I'll give you like a dumb example. Imagine you're non-technical, you don't know what good standards are or how to do something correctly.
Yeah.
And so you tell the AI to vibe code and say, hey, build me a API that I can interact with to go do a thing. It'll like spit out a bunch of code, right?
With an MCP server.
Sure, but like it'll spit out a bunch of code.
Yeah.
Right? But you forgot to tell about authentication standards.
Right.
You forgot to tell it about like what happens when 10,000 people hit you, or like all these different things that could occur. And so like the uneducated, non-technical person, yeah, they got an API, but it's completely unscalable. It's probably insecure in some capacity. They don't even know the right questions to ask of the AI to like get to a good outcome to it. At the same time, you also have like really seasoned engineers who know all the bits, right? They know all the right words to use, all the right things at a given moment.
Yeah.
And they can say something like, hey, I need to make an API, it has to follow these authentication standards. Here's an example of one I had before. Like I can give the AI all the bits.
So you're a better prompt engineer.
Yeah, right. Effectively, right? A prompt engineer of a technical degree, effectively, right? That can output some wicked good code, right?
I thought vibe coding was going to put all software developers out of business.
No.
Sounds like no. They're just going to become better software developers with vibe.
I think the real thing,
yeah,
and like we can look at it a year from now or 2 years from now, I think it will, one of two things will happen. Either A, it'll push junior engineers out of the market completely, right? Which will have a downstream effect 10 years from now when people start retiring.
There'll be no senior engineers.
Could you imagine that? Could you imagine a world where we have no pipeline of software engineers?
That really does scare me.
That's a real crazy idea.
Well, because I think businesses will say, you know what? Why don't I just get the senior person who could work 4 times faster?
Right.
Right, and get it right the first time.
But you don't think there's going to be a new junior engineer that's just a really good prompt engineer, somebody that understands the product enough to ask the right questions of the AI, let the AI do the coding? Do you really need a senior engineer at that point, or is that the new senior engineer?
I think it depends on how you code it. So I think that becomes less on the seniority of the person and more of the tools they use.
Yeah.
If the tool has the guardrails to ask the right seniority level style of questions,
so you don't screw up and make
so you don't screw it up.
I love it.
Right. So I think it's up to the software vendor who's making the product to determine how they're gonna do that.
Yeah.
And right now in the world of like Cursor and Xcode and JetBrains and VS Code, all these IDEs that software developers use, and like Lovable and Vercel, all these companies who are building all this vibe coding style software.
Keywords now.
Well, these are all companies or products that have adopted vibe coding as their business model. Right? They are selling to a less technical person to say, hey, I'll build an app for you, right? To go and do this thing. And they do work. They work, right? The problem is that they don't scale well. And so I think it's accelerating sort of like proof of concepts.
Yeah.
Right?
Get something going quickly.
Yeah, but it's not actually solving for like, can you get a business out of this?
Yeah.
And so if we don't change the software to be more informative as a senior would be, then yeah, I do see people saying, oh my God, my stuff doesn't work. I'll just get a senior to make it work.
Yeah.
That scares me a little bit, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about all the waste? I can imagine if you vibe code something, it might do the thing, but it might create an entire database structure you don't need. Or it might use the wrong database structure and say like, all of a sudden all your queries take too long. Like there's a human element today to making good architecture decisions.
I'll give you a good example.
Yeah.
This weekend, I built 3 features. I probably spent 10 hours building 3 features.
Yeah.
I threw all of them away.
More context. What are you talking about?
So I was building features on our product, Darcy, and I was trying out different things. And I was like, oh, I want to try this thing. And I built some software with my IDE, and I coded it. And I got to the point where I can kind of like see it and feel it. And I was like, nah, I don't like this.
When you say you built some software, you vibed some prompts.
Yes, I coded it in Cursor with prompts and more.
Cursor like spit out some stuff, and you're like, I don't like it.
Yeah. And I tried again.
Yeah.
Right. But more importantly, I built 3 features that I chose not to move forward with on any of them. And so you could see that as 2 things. Either A, success that you tried something and you're like, nah, it doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
Right.
You just cut down weeks of like maybe 2 or 3 sprints of work.
Right.
And now you just discard bad ideas quick.
Right. Or you could look at it as complete waste where I had no good idea. I just spent a whole bunch of money and time on things that had no value.
Yeah.
Right. I think it's a perception of just how you use the software.
I guess.
At the end of the day, I don't know.
I worry that things are going to be vibed and your AWS bill ends up going up because you coded it wrong. Because it's not efficient with resources. It doesn't make good decisions.
Yeah.
So you still need to today, maybe not tomorrow, but today you still have to have some element of, I don't know, a human or some other future AI intelligence to make better decisions on the architecture.
Right. Is that a senior person or a junior person?
Or AI. In a year from now?
Right.
It's just a really interesting thought to think about a junior developer. I mean, 4,500 feet down the road from our office here in Rochester is Rochester Institute of Technology. RIT has all these engineers that just graduated. And if you think about when we were writing code, like right out of school, entry level, we would write code, we would debug, and we would learn through that process.
Right.
I mean, hours and hours and hours of that. And that is no longer the case. There's too many tools, and AI is so good. I think you might be onto something. And I really wonder how that will impact future jobs.
It's interesting. So you're thinking because we're not allowing developers to make mistakes, those mistakes are really the path to learning. Now you're not making mistakes. Do you really learn?
Yeah, because it's not like when we grew up and we had a spell check in Word and now we don't know how to spell. Spell check helps you spell better. Right. And it is a crutch. This is actually doing the work for you.
That's a fair point.
So I don't know. I just think it's fairly remarkable. And another podcast episode or series that could be just alone on that, which we obviously don't have time for. But how are our engineers dealing with it culturally? What do you get the sense, Trev? Because you're closer to them than, and certainly I am. Jeff, you're obviously closer to the engineers than I am. How are our engineers culturally working through it? Like, are they thinking about it? Do they?
I think a mixed bag.
Because they're using it. We know that there's a large percentage of the lines of code of software that we write today that is being written by AI.
Sure.
I wonder if in school right now you've got kids, maybe not in software development, but in a subject using AI to help them do their homework. And there's this debate. Are they cheating, or is that the real education? Because you're going to do that in your job after graduation, right? Like, why write it by hand if the AI can help you? I wonder if our engineers are thinking the same thing. Do they feel like they're cheating if they use some AI to help them code, and therefore they need to do it manually?
Side note.
Yeah.
There's also teachers now creating AI code. So now you got people who are writing their papers in AI and teachers who are grading in AI.
I watch the teacher. She sees this all the time.
You kind of sit there and kind of wonder, what are you paying for?
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Education and the school system.
Yeah.
And, right. And I think that's a short-term thing because it's relatively new to that sector, but maybe, I don't know, what's 3 years from now. But anyway, our team, mixed bag. When we started pushing people to really dive headfirst into AI year and a half, 2 years ago, whatever it was now, we definitely had a bunch of people who couldn't care less. They gave two shits.
You think they were skeptical or scared?
Skeptical.
Another fad.
Yeah. But initially it was another fad.
Yep.
Then it was, it's bad output, so I don't want to work with it.
Yep.
And then I was like, not for me.
Did you have some of that, admittedly, as a developer? When you were wearing your developer hat 2 years ago?
When I first saw GPT-2,
and
it started outputting some things super early on, and outputted some stuff, I looked at it, I'm like, that's not very useful. It wasn't until a gentleman that we know named Matt Park, who used to work here. He's now the VP of IT at Sirius Aircraft.
Yep.
He showed me GPT-2 of a prompt that did work. He made a Terraform module to go deploy some code. But more importantly, it worked. And I kind of sat there, I was like, holy crap, if it could work consistently, what could we use it for, right?
Yeah.
And then you fast forward now, obviously it's way better than it used to be. The team hated it at first. There were some people who maybe 6, 7 people who dived in with us and they're super interested in it. And over time, what I found is that if you can put 2 people and you sit them next to each other and one has cursor or otherwise, and another person is doing it by hand, and you just see the person with cursor being 10 times more productive, and they're just slamming out code, and it looks right, they're doing all the thing. The other person gets jealous, and then
there's some of that.
They kind of succumb to the sort of anxiety of it, and they say yes.
Yeah.
I would say the vast majority of our technical team even like account managers, right, are even using Cursor now to like write scripts and
Yeah.
things for their customers and more.
These
So
are
like,
not, these are really non-technical,
yeah,
non-developers
yeah.
writing code.
So I would go as far as saying 90+% of our technical team in general is actively using this stuff today.
That's great.
I think that's the only way we can compete. Honestly, I think we have.
In the future.
No, I mean,
I don't think today. I mean, Jeff, you and I both know companies, local and not local, that are not leveraging this stuff.
Well, here's
and
the
they're
difference.
still able to win business.
I
mean,
win
they're able
business.
to solve customers.
Well,
problem.
okay, so 10 years
What was
ago,
the last customer that asked us
I asked me last week.
how much code we're writing
Yeah.
versus an AI?
And it also said, "Why can you reduce your prices because I know you're using AI to write code?"
See,
That was an actual.
that's what's going on. And the same thing was
Love
happening
that.
with
Yeah.
sort of geo-diversity of teams. If you put a team down in a very inexpensive country, are you selling your service now for less because you're paying less for resources?
Right.
That's where I'm seeing the competition. I think our competitors are primarily going to offshore resources today and getting what they pay for sometimes. And we're not. We're spending relatively high dollars on top talent. How else do we compete if we're not going to use AI to help us become even more efficient? That's how we are competing today with our customers.
Right. It goes back to the senior engineer
Mhm.
versus the junior engineer.
Mhm.
Onshore staff are typically more senior.
Yeah.
Right. Like that's
true.
Offshore is less.
That is true.
Anyway, vibe coding definitely a thing right now. I'll say a special announcement. They got.
What do you
Was
do?
it a year ago
Yeah.
that who are they called? OpenAI and Apple announced that they formed a partnership
Right.
for Siri.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
guess who else just did?
Talk to us.
Can you now
Apple.
use Apple and Anthropic?
So Apple and Anthropic have now announced, and there's like rumblings.
You think I'm going to go on my iPhone and choose which LLM I'm using?
I don't know, man. You whatever you do on your iPhone.
Okay, you're not an iPhone
I'm
guy.
not an iPhone guy. I like the choices.
This is going to be great.
That's fine.
Should be a recurring theme about how backward you are.
Yes.
It's good.
No. So you can. So what they're doing is they're not replacing Siri with
Okay.
Anthropic. Now the rumor mill is that they will allow you to choose, just
Right.
like you can, like in Android, you can choose what your assistant is.
Sure.
People can make assistants. You can kind
Sure.
of choose, right? They plan to do something like that. With say you want to use Gemini or you want to use.
Well, today you
Anthropic
can
or
do this.
OpenAI.
So on my iPhone today, I can go in Apple Intelligence and select to enable ChatGPT.
Right.
And if I do, I can Siri can use ChatGPT.
Right.
So you're thinking there's another drop-down option
Yeah.
for Anthropic, for
No.
Claude.
Oh, I thought you were saying you may be able to choose not to use Siri.
Correct.
I feel like Siri's always going to be the front end.
Yeah, they probably
for
will
Apple.
branding wise, but I think they will say, do you want to use OpenAI or Anthropic or more?
Right.
But the announcement they made was Apple and Anthropic are working on a vibe coding solution.
Oh boy.
There's a few things here that I think are interesting.
This is
One
dope.
is for Xcode, which is their IDE for writing software for
Yeah.
Mac software. But what's interesting to me was why didn't they go with OpenAI? They already had the Siri partnership, right? Like they already had a thing going on with them. And instead they chose not to.
Well, it says the latest Claude models from Anthropic are particularly popular for coding tests,
Right.
especially of vibe coding platforms such as Cursor and Windsurf. Did I just see Windsurf got acquired?
Yes. By
Was that announced
by
yesterday?
OpenAI. OpenAI bought them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Big.
$4
Yeah.
billion, something like
Yeah.
that. It's
Yeah.
crazy, right?
200 employees.
Yeah.
Little baby company.
Uh,
Crushing it.
yeah. But like, what's interesting to me is that they're expanding. Apple's expanding
Yeah.
into other markets. I'm sure Amazon and GCP are happy because all of Anthropic's compute is on AWS and Google Cloud. So like that's got to be great for them.
Big moves.
Oh
Are
yeah.
there enough GPUs? I
No.
feel like nobody has enough GPUs for all this.
Can I tell you a story?
I'm ready.
We have a customer. They use a lot of GPUs, and they ran out. And we had to call up Anthropic, and we talked to them, and we're like, "Can we get some more for our customer?" And they literally, this is verbatim what they said to me: "I don't have more to give you. Can you go somewhere else?" They literally told me to go to a competitor.
Do you think is NVIDIA owning this market? Is there not enough hardware?
Yeah, it's not enough hardware. 100%. There's years of backlog to buy hardware. The tariffs didn't help
And
either.
so the
like,
thing
all this
that's going to
stuff.
rate limit AI adoption is NVIDIA hardware inside the data center.
Until they figure out a different way that is consistent and well performant. Yeah,
Okay,
probably.
let me ask you a different question then. AWS, Amazon has already announced a whole bunch of their own chips, their
Yeah.
own everything. You think they're going to compete with NVIDIA on this?
They already are.
So why don't they have enough? There's not enough silicon.
There's not enough. Yeah. Here's like a really dumb example on Amazon. When you provision Bedrock to do your LLM stuff, right? They publicly state you get like 5 or 25, whatever it is, requests per minute to go do a thing with the latest cloud models. No company scales at 5 requests per minute. Like that's useless, right? And they
It's a
say
demo.
it's a demo, right? And so you call up Amazon and say, please sir, can I have some more?
And
right?
they do.
And they do to a limit. And that limit up until like a week ago was hidden. They chose not to tell anybody because, and I'm serious about this, they were scared about telling people how much compute they could give away, that they wouldn't have any to actually give to people who needed it. Right? So they kind of hid how much of a rate limit they could
But they're
increase.
solving this problem because we see new applications starting. We're launching some of them that have capacity.
Yes.
So there's some pool of capacity available.
Yeah, there's yes, but you have to ask the right people.
Right.
You gotta have a lot of like business information
Yeah.
and stats to
They're-
prove it.
They're being like careful. It's not like EC2, you can turn on anything.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're keeping the client close to the chest.
It's cool.
I mean, I'm so nervous that they can't just be like, yeah, here you go, right?
I mean,
Early days of EC2 though, same thing. If you want Northern Virginia right now, it's pretty hard to get an IP address.
Right.
So maybe this is the scarce resource until they literally make more silicon.
I mean,
I do think it was accentuated though with the news over the last week, 2 weeks internationally, the geopolitical climate. I mean, chips really being used as currency.
right.
Like that's pretty remarkable.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, that's insane.
Right.
In our generation, the coin of the realm is
Silicon,
chips,
right?
AI.
Yeah.
That's the world we live in
I was-
today.
I really
prepared
thought it was
for-
going to be crypto. I was convinced it was.
I was
gonna
ready
be
for
crypto.
Waterworld, personally.
Okay, that's a little dystopian.
Good flick. Good flick.
Yeah.
I like
It's a
it.
great movie.
Not as good as Goonies.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah. I mean, we're running into this issue ourselves with our own software that we're launching in the market called Darcy.
Darcy
right?
IQ.
Yeah, we had very early on we had an issue with compute and
Yeah.
be able to service our customers, and we were getting rate limited by AWS and Anthropic. We had to go back to the well and say, "Hey, please, can I have some more?"
Yeah.
Right? And they had to turn things on and
Yeah.
do some of that for us. Yeah.
It's very
Cool. One of the things we landed on over the last couple of weeks, and I don't know if it was because of experimentation, if it arose out of need, was how we can start to incorporate AI video generation into solutions for customers. I was actually pretty impressed at over the course of really, I'd say 4 to 6 months, how much that is continued to advance. Like it's remarkably good.
You know what started this though?
What was
Internally,
it? What was it?
you don't know.
I don't recall.
It was your keynote at SKO showing nothing but AI generated videos at the start.
That was the lead up to.
It showed everybody that there was possibilities for generative AI beyond what we thought, like writing poetry and
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
code. Yeah, you write poetry, don't you, Trev?
I mean, just for certain events, my wife's time. And,
But like seeing all those videos that are purely AI generated and perfect quality, I think that inspired people. And I know we used that when we launched Darcy IQ.
We did.
We did. It's you know what I'm actually thinking about? Okay, you want to show the video?
Yeah.
This is cool, but let me
Yeah,
preface it. I think MCP, what you just said about MCP, integrates someday Darcy IQ and what you're about to see. Wouldn't it be great for somebody to take Darcy IQ, a sales persona, right? And not just generate a sales email, but a personalized sales video to your customer
right.
that you just like AI wrote,
Right.
AI then presents in the same way. Like, I know you can kind of tell it's not a human. It's pretty close to human if you ask me. Let's
Right.
show it.
Yeah.
on their calls. But that's not all. Sales reps can also use Darcy IQ to generate all the content they need to close deals. Darcy IQ will build sales presentations in PowerPoint,
So you made all this right?
generate proposals
I did
and
this in a
statements
weekend.
of work in
by
Word,
yourself. You
I
hand
spent
by hand.
$80.
and even integrate with
I'm
your
not even a
company's
designer.
Salesforce
You got
instance.
$80 on Fiverr.
$80 on a software subscription that was able to create this because I could like type a thing. No, I didn't use Fiverr. No, is that what you said?
Yeah, just I'm poking
No,
buttons.
literally. I was able to like log into a web browser and push buttons. And
No,
it-
but we would have had to pay a contractor or use Fiverr to create something like this.
That's it.
And it would not have been as good as this.
Well, it certainly wouldn't have been as fast. I actually don't think it's perfect, but for the speed that we did it over the weekend,
Yeah.
I think that's where the magic is. The fact that you could take generative AI output and now create generative AI video, I think that's remarkable. I think that's what's really going to change the game for our customers because we're going to use it in the same way.
Right.
So yeah, I love it.
Yeah. Well, I think what's interesting is that you're able to build this, deploy this,
Yeah.
animate this
Yeah.
in a few hours.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's wild. Like just.
Well, yeah. And some people are going to wonder now. I mean, if you were to show my mom a virtual me,
Yeah.
she would be fooled today.
Right.
So there's this huge potential for abuse, for fraud. I don't know if the industry has solved for this yet. When you have somebody that's on video saying and they look exactly like, they sound exactly like you. What is that how are you gonna not fool people with nefarious acts?
Right.
I don't know how to solve for that yet.
Right. I don't know either.
Yeah. You know what's funny? We showed a prospective customer, a bank, this technology. And all I wanted to do was include a little sample video of the bank and their logo. The platform that we used caught it and said, "This is bank fraud. You can't impersonate a bank." They would
That's
not let me
good.
mention the name
That's
of the
good.
bank. They wouldn't let me use their logo.
And the
Like-
banker was actually, he was relieved. after we
Yeah,
told
he's
him.
like, "Wow, that's a feature."
Yeah.
You know what's crazy though is like there are some use cases that are authorized and they don't have a process for that yet. It's
Oh,
just a
interesting.
blanket ban. We don't
Right.
want to ever be caught on the wrong side of this.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it's interesting. It just means we're gonna have to
I have a
answer
quick
more
story
questions.
on something similar.
Yeah, yeah.
What happened?
When I was in college, it's a real story. When I was in college, I went to Syracuse University in upstate New York. My grandmother, she got a phone call. She's in Florida. And a phone call told her that I was in jail in Toronto.
Totally believable.
And they were the police. And she had to wire them some cash or whatever, pay them somehow
Mhm.
to post my bail.
Mhm.
Right. And I was like their emergency contact. And she hung up with them. She paid, called me. Tarabi, are you okay? She's a small Spanish woman,
Mhm,
right? And she's like freaking out.
Mhm.
I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm in my dorm.
Yeah.
Like, what are you freaking out about? And she got scammed
Yeah.
by some guys just impersonating. It
How much?
was like $500.
Oh man,
I know. Back then, I was,
that's a lot of
Yeah,
money.
that's a lot of money.
right. And
And
fast
she probably
forward,
felt violated.
fast forward to like a month ago.
Yeah.
It just happened again.
No. No, a month ago, I was playing with a voice-to-voice system.
Yeah.
And I was like, I want to see if I can replicate my voice to see if
Of course.
I'm in jail and I'm telling my wife, oh my God,
tried
I
it
got
on your
pulled
wife?
over.
Yeah.
And I got, right, and I did everything. I tested, it was great. And I went to go make the phone call, but the system stopped me.
It did?
You're
Yeah.
kidding.
No, it stopped me. It said, sorry, this is against our terms of service.
That's hilarious.
Because it knew I
What
was
did
trying to
it-
scam it.
Oh,
Like,
that's
because
it
you
knew.
were just trying
Yeah.
to demo it, and
That's great.
Right?
I'm
I
glad-
felt way better.
I
I'm glad
guess.
that there's some catching of that involved
Yeah.
because that's really good.
Up until that moment, I was like, oh man, I'm going to piss my wife off today.
you
Well-
just wake up thinking that.
Yeah.
That's great. She's never gonna see this, by the way. She's
I
never
know, it's
gonna.
good.
So I sent you over the weekend that there are these sales bros down in Miami, Florida, and they're promoting how they can make millions of dollars by
Yeah.
sitting on their couch and just leveraging a bunch of AI tools to make cold calls, use AI with AI, use AI to generate follow-up emails, create digital content for customers who are willing to buy content, all using AI, and then use AI to actually post that content and promote it. And they're building businesses around this, right? Typical Miami.
Yeah.
For all our Miami fans.
Fake.
I'm down in South Florida, so I live this every day down there with them. I think about this, and I sent you over one of the SDR solutions that they're using is this, I think, Hermes 3.
And that's the model they're using.
So I found out you have to use that model for whatever reason because there's less checks and balances, and then you can
That makes sense.
wrap stuff around it.
Well, that's
Yeah.
true.
So when we were looking, I was looking for software that was essentially doing what they said they were doing. It's all custom.
Yeah.
And there's no regulation around it.
Right.
Hence, they're getting away with it. And I'm sure spamming tens or hundreds of thousands of people. And since there's no regulation, they're able to generate in mass quantity.
Right.
So that is a little bit why it was difficult for us, I think, at one time when we were looking to create an SDR platform using AI. We ran into some real roadblocks.
Yeah.
Some of it was around voice, if I remember.
Yep.
it was less about technology, more about just APIs and other simple tech stack stuff just not being in existence.
Yeah.
So-
You're right though, that like there's LLMs out there, there's open source packaging and wrapping out there to get around these problems.
Yeah.
But if you use a commercial product, they're regulated in some capacity, and so they try to stop you.
Trev,
Yeah.
so what's Hermes or Hermes? Tell us, what is
It's
that?
a fine-tuned llama model. So they took a
It's a
llama model.
fine-tuned llama model.
So llama models are
Open source.
Meta's open source model they put out in the market.
Somebody like tweaked it.
Yeah, so you take it and you fine tune it, means you change it.
Yeah.
to- right? And one of the ways you can change models is you can effectively jailbreak them. Think of it like that.
Okay.
Right? To make them do things they probably shouldn't be doing.
Where you can't do that with.
You can't do it with a llama model out of the box. You can't do it with Claude models. You can't do that easily with OpenAI models. So there's like techniques to jailbreak them, but they're kind of hit and miss.
But then you got to run it on your own.
Yeah, you gotta run your own
They're
hardware.
running like a data center, you think, or some
Yeah.
cloud environment?
For sure.
You think that cloud provider knows that they're
No,
Yeah.
absolutely not. Just for the same reason they don't know what data is in their S3 buckets.
Right.
Right? They don't know what the models are doing. Right? But yeah, that's how they're getting around it.
sounds
Sneak-
like an opportunity. Like
sneaky,
they should
sneaky.
figure that
Until
out.
it gets shut down.
Oh.
No, they figured out that they're running when people are running crypto miners on vacant EC2 instances, they start shutting those down. I
Right.
wonder if they're going to do the same thing with rogue LLMs.
I think it comes down to legislation.
Legislation.
Right now, there's no reason
Are you
not
asking
to.
for more regulatory in this?
Yeah.
Why?
for the reasons we're talking about.
You think that laws will solve it?
I think laws
feel
will
like-
help.
Okay, I feel
Not,
like
not complete.
okay,
help.
it's laws like locks on your front door.
You're right.
They'll stop
no
the honest
laws.
people.
That's better.
But do you think they're going to stop the criminals that want to break the law anyway?
No, of course not. But you'll dissuade some. Not
Okay.
all.
Think so?
Right? Like so.
We'll
If you
we'll
do-
archive this clip.
If you
we
kn-
could-
if
we could
you
bet on this
know
in
what
2
you're
years.
doing from the Hermes model is
Yeah.
going to land you in jail, would you have second thoughts?
Maybe you should do it in a country that doesn't have extradition.
But, so you want to do Miami then?
I don't think that. Do you think these guys are going to stay in Miami? When they start doing
That's my
that?
point, right? That's my point. Is like you make it harder for people to do things.
Right. Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. We almost got political there.
No, we're not going to get
Really.
political, but we do have a friend who the three of us are friends with, Aaron Newman, who is starting brand new venture.
Again,
Yes. Completely unrelated to tech. And his mission is to basically survey the entire ocean floor.
oh, he's doing it. He's moving
yeah.
forward with it.
Yeah.
Oh, good for him.
Yeah, he's gonna raise money, etc. So he's sharpening his teeth this summer on Lake Ontario here in Rochester. He has 3 or 4 interns.
Almost like an ocean.
Almost like an ocean. It's a freshwater ocean in many ways. And there's shipwrecks all over Lake Ontario, many of which are unmarked. And he plans to go mark all of them.
Huh.
And that is a big deal in that industry.
Hmm.
Has he approached you about feeding a model any of the imagery he's picking up as he's doing lawnmower patterns across Lake Ontario?
You know,
Like sonar echoes.
yeah, maybe a year ago.
He
On a-
did ask you, right?
Yeah, I was on a plane with him, and he's like, he gave me some images, and I put it into a model, and I actually showed it to him, and it actually worked out of the box.
It did?
Yeah, it worked great. Like sort of the first. I mean, I don't know what he gave me, so I don't know if it was good or not. But yeah, I mean, when I showed him and the output, he's like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
Well, he's a great example. He's obviously a small entity, Deep World. That's the name of the organization, deepworld.org. Shout out to Aaron Newman. I believe in his mission, and I'm really, really excited for him. And I love that he's also an example of somebody who knows nothing about a particular space. He's going all in. Like he's learning about it. He's putting his money where his mouth is, and I think he's going to create a ton of data that AI is going to have to help him scale fast.
Right.
That's going to be the situation. And I don't think he's abnormal in that way. I think many of the small to mid-sized business customers that we work with are in a very similar boat, no pun intended, so to speak. I think that's what's so exciting. Any last thoughts before we break?
Well, I don't know. I think the world's changed a lot, and it continues to change. I feel like every 3 months, 6 months, something new. So vibe coding, MCP, Llama, Hermes. There's always like new acronyms that come up every so
Mhm.
often. So at this point, I've sort of given up trying to foreshadow what will come next. But man, it's exciting.
Sure is. Jeff, thanks for joining us today. We really appreciate it.
Awesome.
Was it fun?
Yeah, it's exactly what I expected.
Oh, good.
Good. We're glad you came, Jeff.
Thanks, guys.
Hope to have you again soon.
Yep.
All right, guys. Take care. See you. Bye.
Bye bye.